Hey guys, welcome to Black United. Welcome to another video, and right now it's time to do my Premier League predictions for the 2019-2020 season. I'm gonna be also doing the La Liga predictions. I am only gonna be doing these two leagues in terms of my predictions because they're the two leagues that I follow the most. Like I try to follow the Bundesliga, the Serie A, and a little bit of League On, but I'm not that knowledgeable of them to make accurate predictions, at least for the whole league. I'll probably be doing a collective video after La Liga and Premier League about the Champions League, Europa League, and the big top 5 leagues winners, which it's not particularly that difficult, the league ones. But I think that it's going to be a really interesting Premier League season. I'm going to have very, odd predictions. I can really tell. For what I've seen of predictions so far, there is some that I understand, some that I don't. Some teams that I think having put way too up for what they did on the window and for the current state of the club. And well, let's see how many I can get right in a year's time. The Premier League starts tomorrow with Liverpool facing Norwich at 9 PM UK time. And we'll see how this next season is going to fare in the Premier League. At 20th place, I'm going to be placing Sheffield United. This shouldn't be of any surprise to anyone. I think that Lane did great work last season in the Championship, but out of every team that's in the Premier League, and there were other teams that, like Derby and Leeds last season that probably deserved or had more quality to get up in the Premier League and fight for the Premier League spot. I just think that Sheffield are a team that didn't reinforce much because they know that they're not gonna break their wage structure to fight for a Premier League spot where it could be very difficult for them to keep themselves in the Premier League. I just think that their squad is a Championship side at best, and a Championship above mid-table, but Sheffield should have never been in contention for a Premier League promotion. They did. I think the manager did most of the work there. They have some decent players, but I don't think enough to get you in the Premier League. I think the Premier League is probably the most competitive league in the world, and it's really hard to stay in the Premier League, as we saw last season. Norwich, I think they're gonna be finished 19th. I think Fark has done a great job. Norwich have actually a pretty decent core of players. They're a team that they did well. They signed some decent players, but again, they didn't sign much. They're still a Championship side, in my opinion. And to stay in the Premier League, you have to have a Premier League team. Even if you have a Premier League team, the chances right now of getting relegated are very high because you need to be good. Actually, the Premier League is getting to a point where you actually need to be good to stay in the league. If you are not pretty decently run, then you are gonna get relegated, or you're in risk of getting relegated. Aston Villa are, in my opinion, the last team that's gonna get relegated. And I think that is because yes, they signed a lot of players, and I think Smith is a pretty decent manager. They were able to keep hold of their most important players, like Jack Grealish or McGinn. But the problem with Villa is that I think Tyrone Mings was way too overpriced. I think Wesley, he's a fine, he was alright in the Belgian Pro League, but being fine in the Belgian Pro League is not exactly gonna set the world alight in the Premier League. At least I don't think so. And I just think that Villa, they pretty much are gonna pull off a Fulham from last season, with the exception that Fulham, in my opinion, they sign much better players. At least I understood why they were signing these players. I don't understand why Villa were signing all of these players I don't think are that particularly amazing, or at least Premier League level. And well, those for me are going to be the teams to get relegated. The next two teams are the teams that are going to be fighting for relegation in pretty much, I think, the whole season. One more than the other. And at 17th, I'm going to have Steve Bruce's Newcastle team. Mike Ashley letting go of Rafa Benitez last season wasn't great. I think that Steve Bruce, again, I think he's a championship manager as well. That team is pretty much a championship team. It's surprising that Benitez was able to do as much as he did with that team. I think that the likes of there's just so many other teams that have way better players, and even the additions of Jolinton, Alan Maximon, Emil Croft, and Jethro Williams, I don't think it's gonna be enough to it's not gonna be enough to not make you challenge for a relegation spot, because your team is just not good enough. Your midfield is not good enough. You have a lot of wingers that are not particularly fast. They have Atsu, but Atsu, dribbling wise and goal scoring wise, doesn't add much. And basically, you're asking, I don't know, Alan Maximum to do all the dribbling in your team, while you're asking Jolinton to score the goals, to create the goals, and to generate goals for other people. It's just, I don't think, realistic, and I think Newcastle really need to struggle this season. Burnley at 16th, I think, with Sean Dyche, they're a solid team. They're always a candidate. They could, honestly, Burnley could be a candidate of fighting for relegation or fighting to finish in the top half of the table. Thing is, with Burnley, I think that they're a team that plays solidly well, but I just think that there's too much competition in the league, and I cannot see Burnley next season doing that well, considering they haven't signed that many great players in the window. Outcoming next is the likes of Palace. I think Palace 15th is going to be fine, although I say 15th, I think that they're going to be pretty decently comfortable out of the relegation zone. And with Hodgson staying, with Wilfried Zaha staying, that was a massive keeper. I think that you should have sold him for 60-70 million, because that would have given you the ability to sign more forwards. But because, let's be honest, if Zaha gets injured, you're getting relegated. That's the difference. Zaha makes a huge difference to that Palace side. He's a good player, and the likes of Luka Milivojevic, and they have some all decent players. They sold Aaron Wan-Bissaka to Manchester United, but they're gonna be fine. I think that Palace have enough to not get relegated, and that's as much compliment as I can give that team. Then up next is Brighton, Graham Potter's team. I think that finishing 14th for Brighton, it's gonna be a success, at least this first season. I think that Brighton are a team that could evolve into maybe a kind of Bournemouth, which is finish in the Premier League, no problems to getting relegated at all. I think they should evolve into that, because they've signed players and they have a manager that I think is capable of that. A lot of people have been putting Brighton bottom, or at least getting relegated in pretty much all the predictions I've seen, and I understand why, because yes, Brighton were lucky to not get relegated last season, but they have a really good core of young, talented players that pretty much suit the Premier League to the T. And then you have a really good manager in Graham Potter, who I think that the job that he did with Swansea and Ostersund was absolutely amazing. I think in the Premier League he's gonna set a light, even to the point where I wouldn't be surprised if they break the top half of the table. I think that depends on how the first couple of weeks of the season go. I think Brighton could be a really interesting team, and probably the dark horse of the season to do something special this upcoming season. At 13th, we're going to have the likes of Southampton. I think with Hasenhüttl and some decent additions to the team, but especially the brand of football that Hasenhüttl plays, I think Southampton are going to be safe. They played pretty well at the end of the season last season, and they with the addition of Danny Ings permanently and some other decent players, I think that they should be fine. They have a really decent core midfielders in Lemina, in Ward-Prowse, in Højbjerg, so they should be fine. They offensively, they maybe lack a little bit of firepower, but let's just hope that Danny Ings can bang the most goals in the team, so they are able to stay in the league for next season. Bournemouth are, in my opinion, going to finish 12th. It's been really interesting to see Eddie Howe's Bournemouth evolve throughout the years. It's for the size of the stadium and the club, it's incredible that the Cherries are able to stay in the Premier League for this long, and not only stay in the Premier League but pretty much secure the permanency of the Premier League by February or March, which is absolutely remarkable. I think that Bournemouth are always a team, in my opinion, that plays in patches. Like, they have like a streak of 5 games where they probably win all the 5 games, but then they have a streak where they probably, the next 5 games, they lose 4. It's going to be interesting. I think the additions of Harry Wilson, of the midfielder from Huddersfield, that's the name escaping me right now, he's pretty decent, and with some more additions, I think that the likes of Bournemouth could be pretty decent next season. I think they're going to be safe, and their brand of football with the likes of Fraser, keeping hold of Wilson, is going to be pretty interesting next season. In the 11th position, and this was hard because Javi Gracia's Watford was pretty good last season. They have Deulofeu, one of my favorite players in the league. Sarr, who I think is a remarkable player, and that you were able to get him uncontested is absolutely phenomenal. I think that he could be probably one of the breakout stars of next season to like lit up the league, and definitely one of the best. He probably could be one of the best wingers in the league next season. They have a midfielder, Koure. They kept hold of some of the decent players, like Troy Deeney's still at the club. They have Cathcart at centre back, who is pretty decent for them. Capu, who was statistically very good last season for Watford, and Javi Gracia, who's just been able to get the most out of that squad. Which it's a decent Premier League squad, and Javi Gracia for me is a pretty good manager, and the work that he's done at previous clubs has been absolutely phenomenal. So Watford for 11th, and outcoming the 10th position. And between 10th and 8th, I'm gonna say that this is really close. I think that it was really hard for me to place these teams in an order, but I think that Everton are gonna finish 10th just because they did not sign a centre back, and I think that's gonna be a huge problem for them next season. Because as far as I know, your only centre backs at the club are Michael Keane, Yerry Mina, and Mason Holgate. And I'm sorry, but Yerry Mina, with fitness concerns and Mason Holgate being probably like an alright defender, you're gonna struggle. Also, that I don't know how Bamin is gonna transition into the league. Like, you probably you sold Idrissa Gueye for I think it was 30 million, but for Everton he was worth 100 million because he did a lot of work. Like, Andre Gomez is a good player, but I think defensive wise he needs a player to protect him a lot, and unless Bamin can become the next Idrissa Gueye, then I think Everton could be in big trouble next season. I'm just gonna put it that way. But with the signings of Moise Keane, of Alex Iwobi, confirming Andre Gomez, Djibril Sidibe is a fantastic signing. And like I said previously, Bamin, I think they should be fine. Like, Iwobi will work very hard for Marco Silva, and he's a pretty decent manager as well. Like, I think fullback wise, you have Djibril Sidibe and Lucas Dean to fight for one of the best partnerships of fullbacks in the league. I think they're both remarkable. Richarlison, he could step up and have a breakout season where he could get a move the season after to a top team. And we'll see what's going to happen with Everton this upcoming season. For me, Wolves are going to finish 9th. Nuno Espirito Santo has done a fantastic job with our Wolves side, promoting them from the Championship and settling them for the Europa League this past season. Everything looks like they're going to be playing Europa League next season, so that's why I'm placing them 9th. Because although they've added some needed depth to their team, they're not a team that's used to playing Premier League, like Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, and then Europa League football. And because, like, especially the Europa League is a real bad crapper for any team in the Premier League. It's not only in the Premier League, but any other league. Playing Europa League football is really, really hard on you. So I think that, like, Wolves, I would put Wolves higher if it wasn't because they're playing Europa League football. They've never managed that before, and it's gonna be a transition year for them. I think just finishing the top half and getting out of the grip in the Europa League should be their aim. But with the signings of Cutrone, confirming the Dunker signing, they've done some pretty good savvy business, and Watford could be a team Wolves could be a team to watch for next season. West Ham, I think, are going to finish 8th. Pellegrini is one of the best managers in the league for sure. He's great. He did some signings like Sebastian Haller, Pablo Fornals. They signed some other youngsters, and we'll see. Like, the thing about West Ham is that I don't know what's gonna happen to them this next season. Like, they could completely capitulate, or they could finish in the top 4. Like, honestly, that's what I think. But I think 8th, it's fine for them. I think the addition of Haller is gonna be great, especially to like help all your attack get as many goals as possible. I think if Haller or Felipe Anderson can turbocharge you like Paya did a couple seasons ago, they could even break in the top 6. That's my general opinion. But I think in midfield, like if you're playing with Mark Noble, then that's not good enough in my opinion. I don't think he's the midfielder that should be starting for a Premier League club like West Ham. And we'll see. Like, I think fullback wise they could improve also. But generally, their attack is going to be really good, and Pellegrini has always been good at organizing a really good attack and maintaining a really solid defense. And I think the likes of Balbuena and Diop with Fabianski at net could help them a lot this upcoming season. At 7th, and this is where one of the controversial points come, I think Chelsea are going to be finishing 7th in the Premier League. I think Frank Lampard's first season in the Premier League is going to be difficult, and honestly, between 5th and 6th, I had to make decisions, and I'm only making this because Chelsea were not able to sign anything other than Kovacic and get back Christian Pulisic from the loan of last season from Borussia Dortmund. I think those are good additions, but you need more. Like David Luiz leaving for Arsenal, it's a big hit for them. Your starting center backs in theory being Christensen and Rudiger, they could be fine, but then your depth is like Zuma and like I just think that's not good enough for what you need. Chelsea going forward, I think you're gonna struggle a lot. Like from going from Hazard and like Willian Pedro, or like Hazard, Pedro, and like Giroud or something like that. From going to like Willian, Pulisic, and Tammy Abraham, it's gonna be a big drop, I think, in like performances, unless Pulisic can have the season of his life, which I'm not taking away from him. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Then Chelsea are really gonna struggle next season, and definitely not gonna be finishing in the top 4. That team, it's gonna struggle. I think they have a good midfield in the likes of Kovacic and N'Golo Kante could be really good for them next season. Fullback wise, they should be fine. They have a good goalkeeper in Kepa, but there's just some areas of the squad that they needed fixing this season, and they were not able to do so. The likes of Manchester United, in my opinion, are going to be finishing 5th with, 6th. I think Manchester United with Solskjaer, I don't put them higher because Solskjaer, I don't think it's, from what I've seen, he's not that great of a manager. He's fine, but he's not great. I think that the signings of Adam Wan-Bissaka is going to be really good for them, but they need a winger, they need another central midfielder. And I think paying that much for Harry Maguire, he's a really good Premier League centre back, but, and this is where the but comes, you could have used that money more wisely to sign a winger and a central midfielder, which you desperately needed. Definitely keeping hold of Rashford and Martial, it's great for them. Keeping Pogba could prove to be good. I'm of the theory that you should sell Pogba and get the deals from Linkovic-Savic and Bruno Fernandes done, because as good as Pogba is, he has kind of a I feel at least that he has a toxic mentality in the dressing room, and that could really harm Solskjaer in the long run in the next season. At 5th, and this is the team that I think is going to be the surprise of the season, Leicester City with Brendan Rodgers, I think are going to finish 5th, and they, in my opinion, they're going to be, depends on how the season goes, on how well they can start the season, they could even be fighting for 4th place for the Champions League spots. I think Leicester is the team with the most improvement, and I have the feeling everything feels like they're going to have a season kind of like the one that Liverpool had when they almost won the league with Brendan Rodgers, that Luis Suarez super season. Sparing the difference is that they don't have a Luis Suarez to turbocharge them into the league, but they have really good forwards. Their defense is really good, like they can hold Chilwell and Pereira, really good fullbacks, fantastic midfield in James Maddison and Didi and Tielemans. And then like in the forward line, Jamie Vardy, Harry Barnes, Jose Perez, all really useful players and Brendan Rodgers has always been good at generating the best out of their attack and then being solid at defense. And I think that this team has everything to challenge for a top 6 spot and be really great next season. As fourth, I'm going to put Unai Emery's Arsenal. Arsenal, I think, did really good business during the window. Nicolas Pepe, William Saliba coming for next season, David Luiz, Kieran Tierney. They were all pretty decent signings, I'm going to say. But the thing is, I think they needed more. They needed another central midfielder. Dani Ceballos comes from a loan from Real Madrid. He's a pretty decent player. He is going to help them a lot with ball progression because they didn't really have that before in the squad. But I just think that Emery, again, like compiling Europa League plus Premier League, it's going to hurt them a lot, and I think they're going to be fighting for the 4th place the whole season. I honestly think Leicester could be fighting for that 4th spot if they really go all for it. I think Tottenham Hotspur are going to finish 3rd. Pochettino had one of the best windows in the Premier League, probably in my opinion the best, with Ryan Sessegnon, Tanguy Ndombele, and Giovanni Lo Celso joining are pretty good signings. Spurs are a team that plays a really good brand of football for the most part, really intense, really high press. Harry Kane, if he can stay fit, and this is where the part is going to be. If Harry Kane can stay fit for the most part of the season, then Spurs could go not to maybe challenge for the title, but really get away from the pack, like break the barrier of like the 80-85 points to really secure that Champions League football really early and be able to focus in other competitions like the League Cups and the Champions League. Spurs, we'll see how they end up. Pochettino is definitely one of the best managers in the league, and for me, they're going to finish 3rd. And the team that for me is going to finish 2nd, it's going to be Liverpool Football Club. I think Jurgen Klopp, with no additions to his side, or at least no meaningful additions to his side, I think Liverpool, they were lucky to get 97 points. And I'm sorry, Liverpool fans, but it is true. Like, you were fantastic, not taking points away from you. You probably would have reached at least the barrier of the 90 points, which is a great season. It's still one of the best Premier League seasons, reaching 90 points. But with some, I think, lucky wins that you got last season, and considering that Manchester City, in my opinion, reinforced where they needed to reinforce, I think you needed another centre back and at least one forward that can like relieve some pressure from Salah, Firmino, and Mane, because the thing is that Liverpool were lucky to not get anyone injured pretty much from their forward line last season, except Salah and Firmino for a little bit, but not that much of the season. And realistically, that's not going to happen. Like, that you pretty much had an injury-free season is pretty remarkable, and I want to see how Liverpool can cope if they ever lose one of the big players that they don't have a replacement for. Therefore, I think that Liverpool are going to finish 2nd, but they're still going to be challenged for the Premier League title. I think that with Guardiola, Manchester City finishing 1st, it's going to be very difficult for them to keep the Champions spot. Again, I think that it was a very tight race for the Premier League last season. Guardiola just proved by doing in 2 seasons 198 points that he's one of the best managers in the world, if not the best. My opinion that he is. With some needed additions in the likes of Rodri, Cancelo, letting go of Delph, some really quality additions that they did to their team. It's going to be really interesting to see them next season. Sane it's injured. I think that he's going to be at least injured until like February, March. That's going to be very unfortunate for Manchester City because he's one of the best players in the Premier League for sure. And with the likes of Gabriel Jesus and Sergio Aguero, they should be able to score still a lot of goals. Raheem Sterling is going to be the most important player of the season, probably. If Kevin De Bruyne can stay fit, he would be probably the best player in the Premier League last season. Like, he might fully fit Kevin De Bruyne is the best player in the Premier League in my opinion. And then Bernardo Silva, Rodri, Stones, Laporte. You already improved with Cancelo. If Benjamin Mendy can stay like not injured, that would be great. And Ederson is a great goalkeeper, so with the depth that Manchester City have in comparison to Liverpool, that's why I'm going to tip them to the Premier League title. And that was my predictions for the Premier League title. What do you think about my predictions? Who do you think is going to finish in the top 4? Who do you think is going to finish in the Europa League spot? And who do you think is going to be getting relegated this next season? Leave me all your opinions in the comment section below. Comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one, Blaugranas.